Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. A friend once asked me this question and I want to share this with you all. He said, Malik, which one is more important, memorizing the Quran or understanding the Quran? And I know a lot of you will start thinking now, okay, which one is more important? Then the answer is, this is not even an argument at all, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran has talked about understanding the Quran more than he did for the memorization of the Quran. In fact, scholars said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't even mention or didn't even talk about the mankind memorizing the Quran, but Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did that in his ahadith. So now when we're talking about the difference, now you should know that we are talking about how you can't even understand what the Quran is all about until you know the meaning of the Quran. So even when you are memorizing the Quran, you need the understanding of the Quran to complement your hifz for the Quran, because without understanding the Quran you are not a complete hafiz. So that is where a lot of people make the mistake now. They focus only on the memorization. Most especially parents now, they want their kids to memorize the Quran. They take them to tahfidh al-Quran. They will just take them there to memorize the Quran. After 2-3 years they take them out and they don't even care if they know or understand what they have memorized and all. That is why now you find a lot of people who have memorized the Quran, you find terrorists, and they back whatever it is they do or they commit, they back it up with some verses from the Quran, which is very, very wrong. When you don't understand the Quran, that's what you tend to do, because you don't even understand the Quran. You feel like whatever it is you do, because you have memorized the Quran, you can back it up with the Quran. And it is very different when you actually understand what Quran is all about and you memorize it, the way you behave and everything. Aisha radiallahu anha was asked once, كيف كان خلق الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم? She was asked about the behavior of Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم. Then she said, خلقه القرآن. His behaviors are the behaviors from the Quran. So if you check the Quran, you see وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has talked about his servants and how they should behave in the Quran. So if you are hafiz, you have to protect the image of the Quran. Our Shaykh said the meaning of hafiz is not just someone who has memorized the Quran. It is someone who has memorized the Quran and he is willing to protect the image of the Quran. So now a lot of people memorize the Quran, but they don't protect the image of the Quran. And I'm included, and a lot of hufaz, almost 80-70% of the hufaz are included in this, because they don't really understand the Quran. And when we were kids, that was really what affected us, because then we didn't know how to behave according to the Quran. We didn't know how we should behave. We are just doing anything we wanted to do. But as kids, it's normal. So growing up, that's when we got to know that, okay, this is what we should do, this is what we shouldn't do. So now I think it is high time we should start teaching our kids about the Quran, lessons from the Quran, the meaning of the Quran, because it's more important for them to understand the Quran. I'm not disputing the fact that memorizing the Quran is so very important, but at the same time, as we are teaching them the Quran to memorize, we should teach them the meaning of what they are memorizing, so they will know how to interact and how to relate with the Quran, and they should know how a hafiz of the Quran should behave. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran has mentioned these verses. He said, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبٍ كِتَابٌ أَنزَلَ يَدَّبَّرُوا. You understand? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has talked more about understanding the Quran and pondering upon the verses of the Quran than he did for memorization. هذا والسلام عليكم.